Well, good evening, people. Hope everyone's done their Christmas shopping. Drove past one shopping park here and so busy today. Drove past, but it messed up my whole route. Took me 10, 20 minutes just to get off the motorway to drive past this place. I'll probably still carry on up to Christmas Eve, and I was joking with some people earlier. On Christmas, take a break, and then Boxing Day, carry on. Carry on again. Christmas is the Christmas Eve shopping, Boxing Day shopping are the main days, and Christmas is the break in between this. Anyway, I'll give a speech now about spiritual matters instead of rambling aimlessly about festive matters. Actually, really, there's no difference between these two things, talking about spiritual matters or rambling aimlessly about festive matters, because the point is that where where is whatever we say, where is it coming from? Many people, this religious people, preach about all spiritual stuff, about meditation, about karma, about doing good thing, about selflessness, about not to be angry, not to be lustful, all of these things. And a lot of the time this preaching comes from a unrealized space, insecure space. So it's even blabbering, coming from a space that's completely natural, fearless, secure, unimpeded. This is more useful. Some of these great Awadhutas of the past, some of them just used to talk nonsense. Some of them just used to murmur incoherently. We have in all of these Charitra books coherent slices and some leelas that have, been made sense out of. And some of these beings just act completely mad. Some of them look angry all the time, but even the anger or the unruliness of a free being, of an Avadhuta, is a lot more valuable than the politeness, the softness, the gentleness, the saintliness of a hypocrite or an imitator or a charlatan or somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, in other words. And knowing what we're talking about in this field, it doesn't mean that we've learned something, that we've learned the correct script, that we've learned to say the right things. Probably we've all met people like this. They say all the right things. They say everything that you want to hear, but you just don't feel it. You don't feel their words, and maybe you'll feel like punching them instead. It's like you'll just say, "Oh, don't be such an arse kisser." It's just, you know, be yourself. Say what you think. Disagree. You know, These kind of very simple things, but what we call spirituality, that's what I'm always trying to say, that it's alive in all of these things, all of these ordinary moments of life, or whatever you want to call it, or spiritual state, or status, or level, or condition. It's transmitting itself all the time. That's why I say with Avadhutas, you don't need to get even teaching. You don't even need to sit like, okay, but sit, do meditation. It doesn't matter, you know, what's there. This great master, Yuji Krishnamurti, who I love so much time he was spending with people. He was so ordinary and simple. Most of the time he'd spend with people gossiping, walking around, you know, department stores, talking rubbish, you know, chatting about money, just being completely obscene, swearing, this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter because when the expression is coming from this completely unimpeded, open space, it doesn't matter what's said or not said. But definitely some beings get the karma or the dharma to come and speak in a tangible way, you know, about life, and then maybe these things become teachings, they become books or whatever. But maybe these things shouldn't become books. maybe once these beings are dead, you should just burn all the books as well, because yeah, then other people could start interpreting, and then sometimes these words become dead words. They lose the life. Or maybe when they're coming from a very powerful being, the words keep that vibrancy. But different masters keep coming. The masters die. The ones that do come die eventually. New ones come. New ones bring something which is relevant to their time, to their space, to their place, to the people that are destined to interact with them. So everything is as it should be. So anyway, I wanted to talk a bit in this one about I put this comment in the group the other day about something like, if you feel like something, do it. And then something clever sounding like, I forgot what it was now. Feeling is the something of a good life or something like that, whatever it was, of an authentic life. Um, and a few people wrote me about this. I got some backlash about it. Not really backlash, but I got some feedback about this. People are saying to me, "Fine, but what if we feel something, but we do the wrong thing? What if, what if our feeling is wrong, and hence we take the wrong course of action? What's wrong? How do we judge what's wrong? Everybody judges what's wrong differently. Some people murderers, and they think it's right, they think it's correct. Some people child sex traffickers, they think this is also right, they think it's also correct. So these terms, right and wrong, are relative. You know, the whole world, all the people in the world could say this is wrong, but still you might feel like doing this thing. And if that feeling is overwhelming, no matter what bearded saint in his robes comes to you and says, no, this is a bad thing to do, still you might end up doing it. This is just the reality. I'm not trying to be particularly iconoclastic here, saying these things. And I'm not also trying to say, like, you know, in the vein of Aleister Crowley, do what thou will, you know, thou art the whole of the law, this kind of thing. Like, just do what you want, you are your own. I'm not trying to say this. I mean, this has got to be taken in the whole context of everything that I write in that group, also about, you know, in terms of relating to others, about expectation, giving people freedom, and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is, again, what's wrong? You know, what is the wrong? What's the wrong thing? What's the wrong feeling? What's the wrong action? How are we judging what's wrong here? Mainly, we're judging what's wrong we have in life, things that we like, things that we don't like. We have things that we would like to happen. We have things that we wouldn't like to happen. So for us, when we say it was a wrong action and thus it was a wrong feeling that gave birth to that action, we're saying basically the result of this feeling, which led to an action, led to something that I didn't like, that I didn't find pleasant, right? And it's always this. It's always about us. It's always about what we want. So let's not imagine that we're living in a world of kind of universal, you know, moral values here. We are more concerned with how what we do affects us. Even if let's say we steal something. When is this a concern for us? Might be a concern when we get caught, right? We get put in prison. Might be a concern when we do it and we feel bad after doing it, or we feel guilty, we feel our conscience feels something. So again, we only feel bad about this because it leads to something bad for us. It leads to either us feeling bad inside ourselves, bad feeling in our conscience, guilt, or it leads to a bad scenario that, okay, we get arrested and put in prison. So when we say wrong feeling that leads to a so-called mistake, we just mean it leads to something which we don't like. But this but this is life. What do we all try to do? We all try to live in such a way where what we want to happen happens, and what we don't want to happen doesn't happen. Welcome. This is how people live. So, thing is, this is going to happen whether you like it or not. Things are going to happen in life that you don't like, right? Either way. So, what I mean by this going with feeling is that you feel like you're acting honestly. You're not analyzing, and you're not acting from fear. Because if we want to, we can sit down and we can make a list how to live the perfect life. Right? And we can do this in many different ways. We can take this from different different angles depending on our perspective. Right? If we want to be a billionaire, if we want to be an emperor, we can maybe read stuff like this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. We can read Machiavelli. We can read Sun Tzu, Art of War. You know, ideal for becoming, an emperor in this world, becoming rich, becoming dominant, or whatever. There's blueprints for this kind of thing. If we want to be a saint, if we want to be a saint in the model of all the saints that the religions have sold to us, there's blueprints for this as well. Do this, don't do this, follow this, and we can become a saintly person. And people can respect us and say, oh, what an amazing saint he is. We can become a monk, we can become a sannyasi. People can bow to us and people can touch our feet and appreciate how saintly we are. Right? But these are still just constructed existences, thought out existences, manicured existences, manufactured existences, fabricated. They're not, like a flower of existence that just blooms by itself. And depending on where the sun is, depending on the environment, it either bends this way, it bends that way. It gets this big or this small. None of these existences are those kind of existences. And this kind of existence, this blooming, as I call it, which for me is like tantamount to, perfection or enlightenment or liberation or whatever. This only happens when you're really honest to yourself. And this means sometimes you do things and the result is is not pleasant, you know, or there's an outcome which is which is not good, right? Or you do it and you say, oh, okay, that looked like a mistake, or you do it and you hurt yourself. You do it, you hurt somebody else, right? But this is all a part of life, right? Thing is, we may feel like doing so many things, but if we want to kind of create this safe existence, this box, we can hold that down, we can hold that at bay, and we can live this kind of created life, this manufactured life. But still that's going to be in us somewhere, pushing, pressing, expressing itself in different ways. And the other thing about doing this, acting from feeling, is that even if the result looks apparently wrong or negative or a mistake, you can learn from it. You know, you, you know, you can do that, and then maybe you never do that thing again. Maybe you never take that course of action again. It teaches you a deep and powerful lesson. Whereas maybe if you didn't do it, you spend the rest of your life thinking, what if, what if, but I didn't, I didn't have the courage to do it. And then that what if, what happens to that what if becomes another life, right? Maybe that what if becomes another, what ifs become other lives, regrets become other lives, guilt becomes other lives. All of these things are extremely heavy. So with feeling, doesn't mean you have to be completely, absolutely impulsive. Have space inside yourself. Have awareness. See, there's a current inside of me. It's pushing that way. And then say, okay, can I just ignore it? Let's see if I can just ignore it. I carry on. I do something else, and see if it comes back. See if it keeps pushing you. Because then maybe it's something that you need to do. Because some of these things, like I've said before, even Jivan Muktas, even liberated while alive beings, they still do things. Yeah. They still live out certain actions, and not all of the not all of these actions look like praying or something like that, or sitting and meditating in Chin Mudra. No, you see this if anyone here's got this Datta Mahatmya book yet. One of Datta Prabhu's main disciples, Karta Virya Arjuna or Sasraha Arjuna. He stole a cow. He stole Kamadhenu from, I think it was Jamadagni, the great sage, and he was a liberated being. He was a liberated while alive being, but he thought, hey, I want that cow. It wasn't a normal cow. It was a miraculous cow. So how can we explain this? And this is in the book as well. It's the background narration of the book is going on between Veda Dharma and Deepaka, who's the stories about these also in Sri Guru Charita book as well. And Deepaka has this same kind of confusion. He says, if this was a liberated being, if this was a sage, then how could he do that? Why would he steal a cow? And kind of the answer was roughly that this was just a part of his prarabdha karma. This was something that still had to be exhausted within him before he died. But the difference is that in this case is that he wouldn't have suffered it. How would you suffer something like this? You'd suffer something like this in the following ways. Okay. So I want to steal this cow. First bit of suffering that would come in, is your own resistance to this thought. This is very bad. I want to take this cow, but I shouldn't take this cow. So again, this is that split I always talk about. Everything is telling us, oh, I want to do this, and other voices saying, no, you shouldn't do this. It's not good, not spiritual. As soon as this division is within us, as soon as any division within us, suffering is created. We all know this, don't we? When there's a dilemma, it's a contraction. It creates tension. Should I do this? Should I do that? I want to do this, but no, I shouldn't do this. I should. This creates suffering. This creates tension. So this could be the first point he could have suffered. A normal person could have suffered, not a Sahasra Arjuna. Second place he could have suffered is when he does it, he takes the cow, and then later I don't want to spoil the book for you, but let's say it's a normal person who steals a cow. He steals the cow and he gets caught. And let's say, okay, he gets a beating or something, or he gets put in jail, he gets put in prison, he gets fined or whatever. So the second place he can suffer is not, I'm not talking about he's suffering when someone's beating him up or is suffering because he's get thrown in prison. Someone would suffer there because they resist this. They say, oh God, I've been caught. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I didn't want to be caught. I have been caught. Again, division. Do you see the division here? I didn't want to be caught. I wanted to get away with this. But life says, destiny says, I've been caught and I'm being thrown in prison. Right? Again, division there, suffering is there. But a being like this, no matter what the outcome was, whether he was killed for it, whether they caught him and said, we're going to put you to death, whether they tossed him in prison, whether they confiscated all the money from him, whether they humiliated him, a being like that would 100% accept all of that stuff in the same way that he accepted, okay, I'm going to take this cow, or the same way he would accept, okay, it's a great day, everything is perfect for me today. So Jivan Mukta, or a sage, accepts everything that happens to them equally, whether apparently good or apparently bad. Okay? They accept winning the lottery, getting 100 million, and losing all of them. They accept it. It sounds strange. It sounds no, this can't be possible. Such beings can't exist, right? You take all the money away and they feel nothing. No, 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 such beings can't. This is why we are talking here, because such beings have existed and such beings do exist, right? This is real. So ordinarily in such a situation like this, a person would be suffering. Okay, I've been caught, now here comes the punishment, and it's bad basically. So I'm not saying we should all go out and start stealing cows. But I'm speaking from this perspective that whatever happens to us, we have to accept it. It's happened already, right? Whether apparently good or apparently bad, right? And at some point, one of the main things that I've noticed personally as I've walked through this path, very tangible thing, not an abstract thing, is that life becomes more smooth, more flowing. There's none of these like hiccups, like if you drive a car and you stall it or something like that, or you drive a car and you have to slow down or go over a bump or something like this, or anything like this, or when you've got some problem with the car, it kind of jolts like that, or kangaroos, somebody I know who used to call it. When you really integrated on this path and established and really in your natural being, everything is just so smooth, like inside yourself, no matter what situation you're in, whether it's apparently stressful situation, whether it's an apparently calm situation, whether it's an apparently exciting situation, whether it's an apparently boring situation, whether it's super hard work or whether it's totally kind of chilled out, your inner space remains totally the same. And the way you flow through actions becomes so fluid that it, it you lose the ability to differentiate between the actions because you're looking at everything the same way. Your acceptance of things, of yourself, of others, and your situation is so complete. Your acceptance is so complete that everything is just yes. Hey, yes, you're just saying yes, yes to everything. Again, doesn't mean you're not saying no to people in life. You're saying yes to the fact that this is the situation. This is happening. So there's none of these little breaks. You know what I mean? These little hiccups in life where you're going along and then oh no. Do you know what I mean? Oh God, here we go. Like there's none of these hiccups in life where you're resisting or you're judging or you're looking or you're in a moment of division or you're in a moment of dilemma. All of this completely goes, and you're living, you're doing everything. You can be doing a lot of things, but yet you're neither in a state of conflict, you're not thinking particularly about what you're doing, you're not planning, you're not manufacturing anything, you're not fabricating something. You know, if you do some action that looks apparently very saintly, you don't feel any different to if you do some other action which looks apparently not saintly. So life becomes that smooth. Now, if we do a thought experiment and think, okay, my life is going to be like that, then it means that this ability to go back and kind of, oh, now I'm going to analyze, now I'm going to think what my uh, parents said, now I'm going to think what my friends said, now I'm going to think what my scriptures have said, now I'm going to think what my gurus have said, and I'm going to ponder about it, and I'm going to think about it for days, or I'm going to think about it for hours, or I'm going to think about it for minutes. This this goes. This is just not there. You don't have that ability. Now we have that ability. If we want to do that, we can do that. If you get into this state, you can't do this even if you tried to do it, right? If something is not ready, if there's not perfect clarity about where you're doing, where you're going, or what you're going to do, you kind of just you're in silence. You're doing what you're doing. You're waiting for that clarity to come, but you're not thinking, you're not analyzing, and you're not in a state of conflict. Maybe you have to talk to somebody about something. You take the action, talk to somebody, then the clarity comes. But there's none of this suffering which comes to all of us usually when we're in this state of conflict, when we're in this state of dilemma. So this comment of mine about doing what we feel is coming from this perspective of creating this smooth flow of action. But if we do what we feel, which is kind of like, okay, I go straight into the action, I do what feels right, but then we don't take responsibility for what we do, then it doesn't work, right? Because doing what we feel is the before part of it. I feel like doing this. Middle part of it is you do it. And the afterwards part of it is like the aftermath. I've done it, now what? So if on this aftermath, once you've done this thing, you're either going to have regret, you're going to judge yourself, you're going to blame somebody else, and you're going to stew about it, then this principle doesn't really work, right? Because you just look back and you judge yourself, you say, oh God, I've made this terrible mistake, I should have done this, I should have done that. So then it doesn't work. But if you do what you feel, and whatever the result of it, whether good or bad, you totally take responsibility for it, you own it, and you accept it. You accept whatever the outcome is, good, bad, whatever, totally. Then you create this smooth flow, because before the action, there's none of this thinking, analyzing. So you're straight into the action, no thinking. After it, there's no regretting, there's no looking backwards, there's no judgment, and you move to the stage of taking responsibility in action. So where's the room for thinking here? Where's the room for indecisiveness? Where's the room for tension? Where's the room for inner conflict? It's not there. So by saying this, I'm trying to almost describe the way that one functions in that natural state. And yeah, it's not it's not easy to, if this feels right for us, we have to go with it. Some people need to create some kind of artificial structure just to keep themselves sane. I've given example many times. I knew somebody that had addictive personality, and if they ate any sweet or any piece of cake, they'd go on a binge for 3 days, sweet binge. After that, rest of the week, guilt, regret, and water fast for the rest of the week. This creates a kind of chaotic life. If we can't handle what we do, if we can't take responsibility, if we haven't got at least a bit of stability, it might be better to create this very nice, followable structure for us. For me, this is the idea behind, like, going living in monastery or something about this. We create some kind of structure. We create some kind of strict boundary for our activities, the activities that we can do. And through that, we create a kind of external stability. And that gives us an opportunity to create some internal stability. Problem is with this is that there's no guarantee that living this kind of life will burn or exhaust the tendencies that you have to do things that you can't do within that environment. Some people, don't get me wrong, there have been some masters, there's been some very pure beings that have taken vows, whether Buddhist vows, whatever, whether in the Hindu monk system, very pure. They've reached such a stage where they've exhausted vasanas towards things like, for instance, having family, sexuality, drinking alcohol, eating meat, whatever like this. And that monk's life is extremely easy for them. It's like the most natural thing in the world, right? For them, perfect. Some others they do this and they end up disgracing their vows. Okay, so they're a monk externally, but in their real behavior, they're not a monk, either in terms of what they actually do or in terms of what they're thinking about all the time. Many are like this. Two, they take the vows and then they drop the vows. They realize they can't hold them and they drop them. Three, they live like this. They manage to live their full life like this. They don't manage to exhaust these impressions, and they come back, and maybe next life they come back and lead householder's life, or they lead life of a drunk, or somebody going clubbing all the time, or something like this, just to exhaust it. So we have to do what's right for us. I talk from my own perspective, kind of how I've lived. It's not that I've been a wild person, but I haven't created any external structures particularly to follow about what can do, what can't do. And this is very in keeping with, in Buddhism and Hinduism, they usually call these paths tantric paths. And the problem is with these paths, so in Buddhism, that they say that the Vajrayana, which is the tantric Buddhism, it's like putting a snake in a pole. So once you're on that path, you're either going to go up, you're going to go straight up, or you're going to go straight down. There's no sitting in the middle on this kind of path. So that's why in the official world of these paths, the official tantric paths with initiations and stuff, it's really kind of, you can't just get into it. You can't just get the initiations into this path or connect with a teacher or guru on this kind of paths, because it's you already have to be pure to a certain degree before starting this path. if you think even the same with even this, path spoken about with that Manji speaks about, he's not giving tons of do this and don't do this. Very, very light actually in this way. But you have to be, if we think that such a path suits us because it means we can just do what we want and we can indulge, it's not really the right motivation. To walk this path, we actually have to be very pure already. We have to be aware. We have to be mindful, and we have to be solely rooted in this feeling that we do actually have this benevolence within us. Because I've walked this kind of path with a lot of feeling, but you know I'm someone who also from young age had very kind of set feelings on behavior around people as well. I could never make, sometimes when we're arguing with people and stuff like that, sometimes we say some remark to kind of jab people or poke people or this kind of stuff, like personal remark, we usually call this. When I was younger, I could, even if I was really angry with someone, I could never do like this. It just felt kind of wrong in a way. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not with this saying, okay, just do what you want. It's if people want to take it that way, they can take it that way, but they have to take responsibility for it, right? You know, at the end of the day, we're going to do what we feel anyway. So we can interpret however we want. But the point is that we have to have this basic awareness inside ourselves, this steadiness inside us, this feeling of, you know, trusting our intentions. If we start moving this feeling of freedom into, oh, I want this, but it's going to be bad for this person, but I'm still going to do it, then, then it's a completely different thing. We can still be free in ourselves, free in our actions, free in our self-expression without being violent to other people. It's perfectly doable. So that's this path ultimately. Eventually, we have to take responsibility for everything that we do. You know, no guru is going to take responsibility for what we do. No path is or tradition is going to take responsibility for what we do. No vows are going to take responsibility for what we do. We have to take full responsibility for what we do. When we do something, we have to have in mind before we do it, whatever the result of this thing, I'm willing to take 100% responsibility for whatever happens. Not excuses, okay? Not trying to fight and squirm and weasel our way out of something. 100%, whatever the result is, 100% response. Every action that we do, we have to be able to do this. If we do this, whether we make apparent mistakes, we take responsibility for it, we learn. Maybe that's it. Maybe we think maybe I never have to do this thing again, or we get the punishment and we think no way am I going through this, do this, facing this kind of thing again, and it's done. So I'm just being realistic here about how this path is, about how um, life is. It's not, you can't just artificially sit down and kind of make yourself into some kind of, being that always says the right thing, always apparently does the right thing. You have to be okay with you. You have to be happy with what you're doing, with what you've done. You have to be happy with your own intentions behind what you have done, behind what you are doing, and behind what you will do. See, when you're happy with that, when you're certain with your own intentions, again, there can't be any regret, no matter what the result is. There can't be any regret because you say that this was the action for me. This was what I wanted to do. And again, you have to have that feeling before you do anything. I am going to take responsibility for whatever the result of this thing is. And this doesn't have to be like doing anything bad or anything like this. It could be leaving something, stepping away from something. Could be doing something which disagrees with somebody that you usually listen to. Could be anything like this, right? So that has to be there. This is a key part of life, and there's no book for this. There's no person going to be standing next to us and telling us absolutely everything. You know, gurus and guides might give advice, might give overall, perspective, might, point us on the right path, but they're not going to tell us everything that we have to do, because then where's the work for us? The really great guides are the ones that, let us evolve. You you can't you can't baby people. You can't treat people like children or people without a brain, because they won't evolve. If you baby people, then they'll stay as babies. Trust me, they will stay as babies. You know, gurus, guides, and stuff. These beings are full of love, and even people that have come close to them in these kinds of, they'd probably love to pour all possible love onto these beings, but this doesn't help them learn how to create that love inside themselves. This this is the thing. Just if guru guide is nice to us all the time, forget guru guide. If life is nice to us all the time, right? Then we do not learn how to create contentment, joy, equanimity, bliss. We don't learn how to create that inside ourselves from nothing. That's the path. That's what the great souls can do. That's what the great Mahapurushas can do. They create joy from nothing. You stick them in the gutter, they're in bliss. You break their arm, they're in bliss. You know, you take all their money away, they're in bliss. You know, you take one of their relatives away from them, they're in bliss. You know, so life, guru in the form of life or guru in the form of guide, their job is not to baby us. They've got a very fine job, actually. They've got to encourage us, help us to be stable, but they also have to help us stand on our own 2 feet and create that contentment inside of ourselves. So a lot of a lot of people get in a mess with this kind of thing in the path, because they project their expectations, whether of a mother figure, a father figure, or a partner figure, a husband or a wife figure. They project that on to the guru, and they expect that being to meet these things, but it doesn't work like that. It's not like that at all. When Annamalai Swami was with Ramana Maharishi at Tiruvannamalai, he served him for 12 years. He didn't let him meditate. He just told him, build this, build that, move this, move that. After 12 years, Ramana told him, okay, your karmas are done. Now go and just sit somewhere. Don't come back here. Okay. And that was it. Sometimes Ramana would see him when he was walking past this Palakotu, but that was it. Finished. Not okay. Let's keep in touch. Not okay. Let's send each other letters. No, finished. Because You know, Guru is an amazing thing, actually. Amazing beings. Their job is to create beings like them, to chisel people into masters. And man, it's so rare that they can get someone that accepts that chiseling, that says, you know, Guru, Gurudev, Guruji, you know, I don't want, I don't want specifically a relationship with you. I don't want you to be nice to me. I don't want you to love me. I don't want you to appreciate me. I don't want you to tell me how advanced I am. I don't want you to tell me that, oh, look, you're becoming a great being, you're evolving so well. But someone that comes and says, look, I want you to help me become like you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Do what you want with me. You know, take the chisel, pound that chisel into me. Do what needs to be done. Who's willing to go through this kind of thing? Too sensitive we are. Guru ignores us, or Guru says something we too like, oh, we're sad. So we're not serious about any path. We're serious about certain kinds of social relationships. We're certain about having certain emotional needs met. Fine. This is fine, but we should know that and accept it, and don't pretend that, you know, that we're something we're not. There's nothing wrong with this. If we've got something inside of ourselves, if we want something inside of ourselves, we have to go, we have to sort that thing out. We have to get that thing met. We have to get that thing sorted. You know, some people get onto this path because they're running away from other things. They're keeping a bag of stinking rotten shit with them, and they don't face it. They'd rather become a yogi. They'd rather put that stinking stinking bag in the cupboard, and then create a meditation room across the hall and go and sit in there and forget about that cupboard. Right? Doesn't work like that, because eventually on this path, these these things will be there. We cannot hide these things, whether it's something that we're burying, whether it's memories, whether it's traumas, whether it's things that we actually want in life, things that we want to do, things that we want to experience, but for some reason we haven't got the courage to go and grasp that thing, or we haven't got the courage to make the changes or the adjustments in our comfortable life to make these things happen. All of these things are the spirituality. All of this has to be gone through. All of this filth of life, all of this whirlpool, maelstrom, suffering, all of this has to be gone through. You know, life is the path, not this abstract. All this practice is gurus. This is for support, but our life is the path, and this life inside us is prodding us all the time. It's that from this bag, this stinking bag, that fragrance is coming. We're getting a whiff of it. We're pushing it. We're pushing it away. It won't go. You know, really, this is a hard this is a hardcore path, and it's not an abstract path. The path looks different for everyone. People have got different, you know, memories, different desires. It's going to look different for every single person. Um, but but what can you say? It's worth it, you know. If we've reached the time where we want to empty ourselves out, where we want to get rid of this heaviness that we're carrying around with us, then it it can be done. But the keys for this thing are in life, are in relationships, are in life scenarios, are in interactions. I guarantee that. when people sometimes write me about spiritual things, I only feel like something is happening with this conversation, usually when they tell me about personal problems. Because I'm like, yeah, there's something real there, not this and that abstract question about meditation or consciousness or about God. No, some painful stuff that's happening in your life. Yes, that's where it's going to be. That's where the action is. That's where the root is. That's something in there is what's obscuring you from being, realizing, resting, enjoying what you really are. Right? It's somewhere in there. And some people come to gurus and guides and they this is the best. This is the best. They come with this sack with them. Or they put it in the car and then they go and they put it in the car and then they go outside of the car to meet guru or guide or whatever or path. And they pretend it's not there. They come and they think, yeah, I'm gonna go into the path. I'm gonna do my practices. I'm gonna follow this person now. But that stuff, no. We don't go to that stuff. But from the first moment, Guru knows it's there. Guru, because we're bringing the scent of that stuff with us. It's in our aura, if you want to say. And if you spend enough time in you know, the field of somebody like that, one of these natural beings, then this bag is going to get opened up at some point. 100%. 100%. That's just the way it works. That's the beauty of it. Best feeling to get into this path with, or to connecting with a guide or whatever, is yes, the fire's coming, the chisel's coming. Let me, you know, if you're going to pray for anything, pray for the strength to go through it. And whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it life, it always holds. When we go through this stuff, it always holds us. I've been through a lot of stuff, and always life holds us. When we go through, when we cross that barrier, when we jump over that boundary, when we make that leap of faith, whenever I've done this, I've found, oh, life is holding me completely. That's the path. We have to make those jumps. We have to make those leaps of faith. And when we make that leap, we leap into an entirely new reality with less fear, less control, less contractions. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I hope what I've been saying has been useful in some way. This is maybe a bit rambly, this one, but just sharing my thoughts as usual. If it's useful or helpful for you, take it, apply it to your own life. If it's not useful, then throw it out. This is just the ramblings of anybody else. It's just the ramblings of another person. If it's useful, take it. If not, throw it out.